What makes you a New Zealander? Is it where you were born? Is it what it says on your passport? Or is it just because you love what he sauce? I don't know. Joining us on the program now from the Maxim Institute, Jason Heale. Jason, going to do a test. Do you love what he sauce?
I do, mate.
Well, you must be a New Zealander then. That's what it says on the ad, right?
Exactly. Always be a Kiwi, mate. That's right.
Exactly. Now, this is what we're talking about today, and you've written an article on this topic, which is going to be posted on the Maxim website a little bit later on, because actually, I think not just here in New Zealand, but around the world, I suppose we're struggling in terms of a national identity. And what makes somebody a New Zealander? Is it because they were born here? Is it because they chose to be here? Is it because they've got needed skills and we pinch them from another country? I mean, there's a bit of that about, isn't there?
That's right. Yeah. In a globalized world, this is kind of what got me thinking about it, is the world is very global. There's a lot of movement of people between countries, and you wonder, what does make someone from a particular country? Is it, like you say, is it the fact that they were born there? Can they claim to be of that country if they were born here, lived here for a couple of years, and then were raised mostly somewhere else? Yeah. I think of people that New Zealand likes to claim, and I want who may not claim New Zealand, but we say, oh, they're New Zealanders, they were born here. I think of Russell Crowe, who was here for I think 4 years. Then
some people like to claim him, other people disown him, depending on what movie they're talking about.
Exactly, depending on what phase of his career maybe that he's at. Yeah. But so that just got me thinking: what actually does make you a Kiwi, or make you part of any nation? I guess.
Well, I don't know. Perhaps if you're a world-class athlete that gets to play in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon, then you're definitely a Kiwi, right? Through and through.
That's right. Especially if Tennis New Zealand approaches you and says, will you play for us under our flag because you were born here? So you definitely can in that case. Yeah. And it's interesting because there is a number of people that who are on the world stage, like you say, like Russell Crowe. And in my article, there's another lady who was born in New Zealand, but is a member of a Korean K-pop group called Blackpink, who we could claim because she's famous. And I was thinking about this, and I thought it's kind of like we want to tell people this is who we are in the world, but are we telling people that's who we are because they're famous, or is it because of something else? And I think that notoriety on the international stage is probably not what should be the marker of a Kiwi.
Although it is a very Kiwi thing to do. It is, I mean, to quote another advertising slogan, world famous in New Zealand. It's like as a nation, we're always compensating for something, aren't we? We've got this big brother next door.
I remember the pineapples ad, the pineapple lumps ad, where they were giving out stuff and you got to be fast around here, It's the kind of thing that we're always trying to punch above our weight, I think, and go, we can make it on the world stage.
It's that,
But we forget that we have done all that sort of stuff, like but without kind of grasping for it. Like we were the first country to give all women the right to vote.
Although, can I just say, Kate Shepherd wasn't born in New Zealand, so was she a Kiwi? So was that us, or was she an English? I mean, Ernest Rutherford, who's also on our money, by the way, again, wasn't the greatest work that he did that in England, didn't he? Although although
he did all his schooling here and all of that stuff. So I think it's more than because in the column I talk about the Sorites paradox, where if you have a pile of sand and you take one grain away, how many grains until it's not a pile of sand? And we're kind of doing that with how many years should they have lived here. And I think it's more about the character that they display. Do they display the sort of Kiwi character that we have? And we're kind of looking at the veneer of these people and going, oh, well, they're famous, they did this, they did that. But what sort of people are they? And are they the sort of people that we would say they embody Kiwi-ness? And I think that sort of Kiwi-ness is humility. It's a desire for equality, a desire for fairness. One person that I read said, if New Zealand could build a statue, it wouldn't be a statue of liberty, it would be a statue of equality. And I thought, oh, that's really
that's pretty good.
Average height of all statues, we would build it, you know.
Exactly. We wouldn't put them on a pedestal because we'd cut them down with our tall poppy scythe, wouldn't we?
Exactly.
And it is interesting because I just thought of another world famous, award winning New Zealand actor born in Ireland, Sam Neill. I mean, that's another great example of a wonderful person that we like to claim for our own, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so you go, there has to be something more than that. And I think it comes down to the character, and do they embody what we would consider Kiwi character? Because I think about, like you say, people that have moved here from other countries and have chosen to make New Zealand their home. Like I remember the furor that we had when Irene van Dijk became a silver fern. And she chose to live here and became a New Zealander and played for our team and it has embodied the New Zealand character. And I think that's somewhat easier when people choose to make New Zealand their home and they take on that.
She's also very tall, which I think helped with the immigration status. Hey, look, the other thing which I think, honestly, is a little bit of a definition, particularly if we're deciding whether or not somebody, for example, the Russell Crowe example, New Zealand or Australia, if you are an underpaid nurse or police person, then you're probably Australian. However, if you're an arrested criminal in Australia, you're probably a New Zealander. I mean, that's the exchange that we're doing. This is our trade between New Zealand and Australia. We're swapping nurses and policemen for gang members and career criminals, aren't we? I'm not sure this is a fair trade.
I would say that's a label that's put on us by other people, Andrew. I would say that's not a fair representation of who New Zealand is. These people say that those, Australians say, oh, those guys are Kiwis, send them back. But would we claim them? I don't think so.
Just because they were born in New Zealand, to your point, I think their character is more Australian than Kiwi. I think they've been, is it a nature or a nurture thing? Well, they've been nurtured by good Australian culture, which is why they've turned out the way that they have. I think Australia should take a little bit more ownership and responsibility in that regard. But actually, to be fair, the opposite problem that we have here in New Zealand, because we are quite an attractive place to live, particularly for many people around the world, and we do have a skill shortage, mostly because they're all going to Australia, but that's not the point. I mean, this is a place where, thousands of people aspire to call Aotearoa New Zealand home. Good problem to have in some ways, as long as we manage the infrastructure, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think our population continues to grow, but it's not because of our natural population growth rate. It's because people come here and they do want to make this place their home, and they see it's a good place, and it is a good problem to have. We want people to go, oh, that's a country that I would want to call my home. That's a country that embodies some of these things that I see as important. The fact that we want all people to have a fair go at things. We want all people to be able to access education and health services and things like that, which in themselves are world leading. So I think that we are blessed in that sense. But it is a matter of going, well, let's manage it properly.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's good to welcome people to be a part of that. It's good to I suppose, to be a little bit confused as to who we are in terms of a national identity, because we're a young country. If we go back far enough, all of us are boat people, really. We've all, over generations and millennia, chosen to make Aotearoa New Zealand home. Let's embrace that diversity and figure out together what it means to be Kiwi, right?
Yeah. Well, as an example, a colleague of mine was watching the rugby on Saturday with a bunch of people. And he said, I was probably the only naturally born New Zealander there, but we were all in the room cheering for the All Blacks because these people had chosen to make this country their home. Yeah. And they'd kind of adopted some of those really Kiwi mannerisms and behaviors because they love this country. And I thought, that's great. We are a really welcoming country. We want all people to be here, and we want to give them the opportunity to become New Zealanders and to participate in making this country even better.
Go the AB, said the chant, and there was one sad little pom crying into his beer in the corner. But there we go.
That's right.
Hey, this article is going to be posted, as I mentioned, on the Maxim website a little bit later this week. Certainly some wonderful food for thought. Jason, thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.